Hi, I'm Dana Brownlee. I'm a Forbes Careers Senior Contributor, keynote speaker, and corporate trainer. And today I want to go beyond the article. And the article I'm referencing, of course, is my February 16, 2022 article, Why the Calling Out versus Calling in Debate is a Dangerous Distraction from Actual Anti-Racism Work. So let's dig in. I wrote this article because I kept hearing, a little bit of back and forth debate about don't call people out, you've got to call people in. And on the surface, it seems, like it is more collaborative, particularly for workplaces. It seems like it might be more appropriate. But I have a real problem with the whole debate because the calling out and calling in, from my perspective, is not really about the progress, the anti-racism work. It's about your approach. And for me, that starts to feel a little too close to tone policing than I'm comfortable with, okay? So for those who aren't as familiar with the terminology, calling in, and again, this is just my view, I would love to hear your view. Calling in is an approach that I think that some people exclusively believe in, which is one that believes in prioritizing the relationship, prioritizing any approach that minimizes hurt feelings or negativity. Ultimately, it's about not threatening people or, trying to ensure that you create and cultivate a space in an environment where people don't feel threatened, people feel completely comfortable. Versus calling out is elevating accountability and elevating actual focus on the anti-racism work, what needs to be done, over comfort and feelings and all of those things. Now, it does not mean calling out, certainly in my view, it doesn't mean rolling around on the floor and foaming at the mouth or, cursing people out or, any of that. But for me, it means that I'm going to prioritize, again, the accountability over the comfort and the feelings. And, I want to, really just reference some of the article itself. Martin Luther King's letter from Birmingham jail. Anyone who knows me and knows my work just knows how much I love that letter and how much I feel like it is a North Star for us today in 2022. One of the things that he talked about is there is a type of nonviolent constructive tension that is necessary for growth. And, as an aside, something else I'll mention, when people talk about King, they love to talk about King, talk about him as nonviolent. But this is what they do. When we talk about nonviolence, we fail to remember that nonviolent was the adjective that described the noun. It was nonviolent direct action. Okay, he didn't just believe in nonviolence, he believed in direct action, but a nonviolent direct action. So he was not sitting around, waiting and coddling and, ego stroking and trying to make sure everybody felt comfortable before he decided what he was going to do, or, ensuring everyone was comfortable with his approach. No, he decided to take direct action. And he certainly prioritized that over worrying about people's feelings. So the other thing that I think I want to highlight here, and I talked about this in the article, because, someone might ask me, well, where do you stand? I mean, obviously you probably know where I stand a little bit already, but I believe in calling in when it works, when it's effective, okay? I'm not 100% team calling in or calling out. I'm saying I'm prioritizing anti-racism progress. However, that needs to happen. That's what's most important to me. And certainly, if calling in is effective, we want to call in. We certainly want to call in. But my question is, what do you do when calling in isn't effective? That's where I have an issue. That's where I have a problem, is when we set up this expectation that we're only going to push, we're only going to bring up issues, we're only going to question policies, we're only going to mention the unmentionable when people are comfortable, or as long as people are comfortable. And as soon as they get uncomfortable, then we're going to back down. To me, that's a recipe for not making progress. And that's actually something else that the King talked about as well, in terms of time, because oftentimes, when people talk about calling in, it's also, they're saying things like, well, don't push too much now, or let's wait, let's come back to it later. But what did King say in Letter from Birmingham Jail? We must come to see that human progress never rolls in on wheels of inevitability. It comes through the tireless efforts and persistent work of men willing to be co-workers with God. And without this hard work, time itself becomes an ally to the forces of social stagnation. Okay, so his words to me are just so relevant today. So 2 things that I highlighted in the article, and I just want to talk about briefly, 2 major reasons why I feel like if you're in the 100% team call-in category, I can't ride with that. Is number 1, historically, calling in has not been terribly effective or efficient or productive. If you look at the continuum of time since 1619 to 2022, name me major civil rights or human rights advances that happen by simply calling in, by simply asking, by simply requesting. That's not the way progress works. There's not one piece of civil rights legislation, not one element of significant advancement that happened without tireless direct action, effort, protesting, demanding, requiring. Okay? That's not the way I wish it was, but that's the way it is. So historically, I would argue that calling out has been absolutely necessary. The other thing, the more obvious reason why I think I have an issue with this exclusively calling in argument is, and I'm going to keep it really, really real, is that really when people start pushing back and saying, oh, we need to call in, it's code for whatever you do, don't make white people upset, okay? And really what that's saying is it's elevating white people's comfort, or sometimes even, comfort of other people of color. It's elevating that comfort over real progress. And that I have a real problem with. I'm just going to read to you from the article. Perhaps the most disturbing element of the calling in versus calling out debate is that it cannibalizes attention away from the issue of inequity, and instead it focuses it on the comfort of the violator. While call-in zealots frequently assume an air of superiority with their allegiance to this gentler approach, the simple truth is that too often calling in is just a euphemism for whatever you do, please don't make white people mad. While they may offer elevated esoteric rationalizations for their calling in preference, it's more likely rooted in a simple age-old attempt to prioritize the comfort of the oppressor over the interests of the oppressed. So for me, that's the other major issue, is once we are in this call-in, call-out debate, we're no longer talking about the actual issue. Now we're tone policing. Now we're talking about our approach. And again, I'll reiterate, I am all for calling in. I am all for using a very collaborative approach when it's effective and when it works. I absolutely start there almost all the time. The question is, what do you do when that is not working or when that ceases to work? So with that, I'm just going to thank you for joining me. I know it's a slightly uncomfortable topic. That's my view. I would love to hear your view. I want to end on probably my favorite quote of all times. Again, it comes from Martin Luther King. It's, in the end, we'll remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. So thank you all. If you got something from this, please like and subscribe down below. Please also remember that I don't represent any particular business or organization. These are my personal views. And if you'd like to stay in touch, please follow me on LinkedIn and on Forbes, and check out my course library on LinkedIn Learning. Thanks so much.